Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have all of you with us today here at the Salem Chamber. On behalf of the boards of directors of the Keizer Chamber and the Salem Chamber, we felt it important to bring one of your community partners, Cherriots, our local transit district, to our organization to share information about certainly something you are starting to hear about, and that is the implementation of an employer-paid payroll tax. We know that this issue could have big impacts on our business community, and as great organizations do, when there are times of reflection and education needed, we invite groups in to come and participate and share firsthand that information with you, all of you as our members. So again, on behalf of the Salem and Keizer Chambers, we welcome you into our organization today. This will be but one opportunity for our community to hear about this, but we're very respectful but adamant that we'd like to start this conversation here, as each of you as business owners and employees will be the ones directly most affected by what is going to be discussed today. I'd like to thank our General Manager of Transit, Allan, Pollock, who has worked hand in hand with me for my 6.5 years here in communicating what is occurring with Cherriots and in partnership. Cherriots is a member of our organization, not just a community partner, and we're fortunate to have most of our governmental entities participating as members of our organization. I would like to kick off today's program again by welcoming our General Manager of Transit, Allan Pollock. I'm going to give you an overview of transit, so Allan and his team may not bear with me, but we're going to set the stage here. Cherriots is a public agency providing bus service over 78 square miles in the Salem, Keizer, and Mid-Willamette Valley. Voters approved the formation of Salem Mass Transit District in November 6th of 1979 in a general election. Local property taxes, as well as state and federal monies, provide funding for our transit agency. With those funds, they provide local bus service in Salem, Keizer, as well as regional express service to towns. The Cherriots fleet consists of 64 buses, which are 35 and 40 foot long, 35 and 40 foot long buses. The Cherriots fleet has, I'm going off your website here, mister. So the Cherriot fleet has dozens of buses. We also operate Lyft, a paratransit service for those who can't safely and independently use the regular bus service. After the passage of House Bill 2017, Cherriots rolled out the largest service expansion in its history. State funding from House Bill 2017 has helped restore services lost in deep budget cuts in 2009. Starting in September of 2019, they restored Saturday bus service, extended weekend hours till 11 p.m. on many routes, and added the Cherriots regional weekday trips. In September of 2021, they added Sunday service for the first time in their history. The vision of the organization: we deliver value, mobility options that inspire community pride. Their mission: creating community connections. The Cherriots Board of Directors has the authority to make policy and administrative decisions. Each board member represents one of 7 sub-districts, and their primary responsibility is of stewardship and trusteeship. The board establishes priorities, evaluates the performance of the transit system, and approves budgets. The board also works with community members to improve bus service and address transit-related issues. From the district's inception until 2019, local voters elected board members. With changes in Oregon's law enacted by Senate Bill 1536, seats on the board are now governor-appointed positions. As of July 2019, the governor has the authority to appoint or discharge board members. The board members are still required to live within the sub-districts they represent. Senate Bill 1536 also repealed a section of Oregon state law, ORS 267.302, which prevented the board from imposing taxes on local business payrolls without first holding an election. Previously, the board was required to seek voter approval for all tax increases. And I quote, But this change won't happen immediately. The board's ability to raise taxes administratively does not take effect until January 2026. That is what we will be speaking on today. The board team has the following members. Subdistrict 1, Joaquin Lara Midkiff. Subdistrict 2, Ramiro Navarro Jr. Subdistrict 3, and also Treasurer, Sadie Carney. Subdistrict 4, Maria Inanos Pressy. Thank you. She also serves as president of the organization. Vice president in Subdistrict 5 is Ian Davidson. Sarah Duncan serves as secretary in Subdistrict 6. And finally, Director Bill Holmstrom, Subdistrict 7. We now turn it over to Allan Pollock to walk us through the beginning of the presentation, and we'll also, to my understanding, have board member involvement following that.
Just to further show you all, I'm going to start off with some opening comments and just good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Hinojos Pressy. I'm the board president here at Cherriots. And I, first of all, wanted to thank everyone for being in this room. Of course, it's a very tight squeeze. I see some folks that are like really close to each other, and I appreciate you also for taking the time out of your day to be here with us today. We're really excited. We're also really appreciative of your continued dedication to the Salem Keizer community. I think that's why we're all here, is our service for Salem Keizer and the Marion County area, the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Honestly, this board that you're seeing up here would not be here without the Chamber's advocacy efforts on that Senate Bill 1536 that Tom was mentioning. In 2018 is when it was passed, and it's been 7 years since then. And that date to me is really important because by the time that bill had passed, I had only lived in this area for 5 months. And when I first moved here from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the first thing that I said was, where are all the buses? Because I came from an area that had bus services that ran every 5 minutes, be it the weekend, the weekday, or a holiday. And I know now that here in Cherriots, we are able to offer weekend service, Saturday service, Sunday service, later evening service until 11 p.m. on some routes. And that includes our regional service can also run a little bit more than it used to. We can connect to Wilsonville, Silverton, Monmouth, a bunch of different places. Woodburn is one of the ones that I like to ride. And I know that that kind of brings us to a base level of service that I think allows us to say that we're a transit agency. But I still think that running buses every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes is unacceptable, because that's the difference between being able to keep your job and keep a roof over your head, or obviously not. Missing a bus that runs only once an hour is absolutely detrimental to many members of our community. As you'll hear here, that in 2024, we gave over 3 million rides, and the majority of those were people heading to work and riding over 5 days a week. This service is important, and I want to make sure that we're creating a service that is useful for everyone here, and that's why we're here. Again, as I said, if it wasn't for the Chamber's advocacy, we wouldn't be here. We have the youngest board in Cherriots history. We have the most diverse board in Cherriots history, and that's why we're starting this conversation with you all. This is going to be ongoing. This is not the only time that we'll get to interact, but I do want to just give a little bit of like a little ground setting. And you have all 7 board members here, and so that indicates that we have a quorum. And we did notice this meeting, but it is the Chamber's meeting, and so only Chamber members are allowed to participate. And because of that, that means that the board cannot go into discussion that would violate public meeting law. So we're here to hear your feedback, try and give you as much information as we can, but we're not going to be able to get into very specific discussions. If you would like to participate in our specific discussions, we'd love to have you at our open board meetings. They're every second and fourth Thursday of the month, and we'd love to see you there. Again, thank you so much for having us here, for being here today. Thank you for having today. I'm going to pass it on a little bit so you can hear a little bit about all of our board members.
My name is Bill Holmstrom. I represent Subdistrict 7, which is in South Salem, kind of the western part of South Salem.
Good morning, everyone. Ian Davidson. I represent Subdistrict 5, which is principally in East Salem, about south of Sunny Slope, Four Corners area, and so unincorporated parts of Marion County and Salem.
Hello, my name is Sarah Duncan, and I represent Subdistrict 6, which is also South Salem. I've been a long-time Salemite. I've lived here since I was about 5 years old, and it's truly an honor to be here with you all today. So thank you for attending.
Carmino Navarro Jr., most people call me RJ for short, and I represent Subdistrict 2, which is Keizer.
Good morning, it's good to be with you all. My name is Joaquin Mitchell, and I represent West Salem and downtown. Lived in Salem for 17 years, and I'm also a Salem associate.
Good morning, everyone. Katie Carney representing Subdistrict 3, which includes Northeast Salem, the Grand neighborhood, and nice to be here today.
All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to our General Manager, Allan Pollock, for the presentation I asked him to prepare today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And good morning, everyone. It's exciting to see so many people interested in talking about Cherriots today, so thank you for being here. So this is the agenda that I will go through. I think it's important. Tom did a great job of laying some background. I think it's important because people, I've learned, have different levels of understanding exactly what Cherriots does and who we are. So I want to kind of set a base for us, talk about who we are and what we do, and then talk about why we're here and the service plan that this investment will pay for. Next slide. So a little bit about Cherriots. So we, technically, our name is Salem Area Mass Transit District. We're one of 3 mass transit districts in the state of Oregon. The other 2 are TriMet, which is in the Portland region, and the third one is Lane Transit District down in the Eugene-Springfield area. Locally, we operate under the name Cherriots, which is pretty much what everyone knows us as. We provide a variety of services. The biggest and most obvious one to everyone is Cherriots Local. Those are the big buses that you see around town. We operate this service within the urban road boundary of Salem and Keizer. We also operate within the urban road boundary. It's called Cherriots Lift. That's our federally mandated Americans with Disability Act paratransit service. Those are the small vans that you see running around. That service provides transportation for people who have a qualifying disability that can't ride the big bus for either some or all of their trips. A very valuable service for the people that qualify for that, because without that, many of them wouldn't be able to get to their medical appointments or any of the services they need for their traffic. We also provide service outside the urban belt boundary. That's called Cherriots Regional, and we go to the small towns in Marion and Polk counties, generally designed to bring people into the Salem area in the morning and then bring them back in the afternoon or evening. In Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties, we operate a transportation options program. We recognize that the bus is not the only solution for everyone, and we work in this program to encourage people to get out of the single occupant vehicle, whether that's by riding the bus. We offer carpool matching services. We operate over 40 van pools in the region, and as well as biking, walking, anything other than the single occupant vehicle. And then the last program we offer is travel training. This is a high-touch service we provide to our community because many times when we ask people why they don't ride the bus, one of the big reasons is they don't know what to do. They don't know how to ride the bus. They're afraid to look a little silly and it gets intimidating. So this travel training is a free service we offer to individuals and groups. And what we do is we teach you how to ride the bus. We teach you how to read the schedule, pay the fare, all the way to why you pull the little cord to let the bus driver know you want to get off. And so we do that for individuals as well as groups. 2 of the biggest groups that we participate in this program are at the Salem Senior Center. We really focus a lot on seniors and people with disabilities. And then every resident that comes to Salem through the Salem for Refugees program, we teach them how to ride the bus to help with their independence. We're also an active community partner, as Tom said. We are very visible and active in the community. We work with many nonprofits in the area. Our biggest program is with United Way. We donate thousands of passes every year to the United Way, and they distribute them to their member agencies so that the clients that have a transportation barrier can get to the services or the job interview or that first week of work until they get a paycheck all throughout the year. So we also offer discounted passes to qualified nonprofits as long as they use the passes to help their clients with the transportation barrier to get to the services they need within the community. And as Tom said, we are proud to be members of the Salem and Keizer Chambers because we believe, even though we're a public agency, we make a significant impact and is an economic driver in this community. And I'm going to talk about that ROI in just a minute. Next slide. So as we said earlier, we are a local government. We are not a department of the city. We are our own independent agency governed by a board of directors. And as a local government, we receive significant oversight to make sure that we're administering our funds properly. But I just think it's important for you to understand the level of oversight and what and how we're doing as an agency. So as you can see, this past year was the 12th consecutive year we've received the Government Finance Officers Association Recognition Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Not just any local government can get that. It really takes a significant effort, and it really proves that we are accountable and transparent to our community. And then we have oversight both at the federal and state level. At the federal level, our oversight agency is the Federal Transit Administration, the Department of Transportation. And every 3 years, they come in and do a review of their member organizations to ensure that we are using our federal funds in accordance with federal public transportation law. In that review, they assess 23 different areas. We just completed our review in June. And I'm happy to say within those 23 areas, Cherriots had 0 deficiencies, 0 findings. This is also pretty significant because less than 20% of agencies receive 0 deficiency reports when they get their review. And similarly, ODOT conducts a similar compliance review. We completed that in April, and we also had 0 deficiencies, 0 findings in that review. And that's the second ODOT review in a row with 0 findings. We also had a perfect record in 2021. So what does that tell us? It tells us that when investments are made in Cherriots, like the Employee Payroll Tax through House Bill 2017, we have demonstrated financial stewardship and the return on investment is used wisely within this organization. But it's not just about oversight. It's about performance. And in June, we were recognized by an organization that we're a member of. We have joined in a consortium with other agencies throughout the country. And we had our annual meeting a couple months ago, and this is the results. We received 8 awards for our performance. Now, when we look at how we're doing, the reason we joined this consortium is to really measure what's important to our community and to our customers. And one of those measures is ridership. And many people, when I'm out in the community, ask, how's Cherriots doing? How's ridership? That's a very common question. And I'm happy to tell you, last year we provided over 3.3 million rides in the Salem Keizer community. That is the highest ridership that Cherriots has had since 2014. And in fact, for the 3 mass transit districts in Oregon, we are the only agency that has surpassed its pre-COVID ridership levels. So pretty significant. But back to the awards. So we received these awards. I want to highlight the third from the top. It's cost per customer trip change from 2021 to 2023. We came in first place in that group. And what that award means is we have the highest increase in cost per customer trip. So as we've expanded service, we are utilizing the funds that are provided to us as a public agency wisely and effectively. Next slide. So with that background in place, Tom talked a little bit about Senate Bill 1536. I want to talk a little bit about, a little deeper. So Senate Bill 5036 was passed in the 2018 legislature. It fundamentally changed two provisions in the mass transit district governing statute. Those changes only impacted Cherriots. It was a change to our governing structure and a change to our funding mechanism. But to understand, so why did this happen? We need to go back to November of 2015, when Cherriots went out for a ballot measure to access the employer payroll tax, and we were not successful. It was disappointing to many. One of those that was disappointed was Senate President Peter Courtney. He, along with Senator Winters, led a discussion with Cherriots and members of the Salem Chamber. And after a period of negotiations, the Chamber, Senator Courtney, and Cherriots came to an agreement in partnership for both Cherriots, and both Cherriots and Chamber testified in support of the bill. The Cherriots board supported this bill, knowing that by doing so, if it passed, they were voluntarily ending the terms that would not be reappointed to the board. I'd say from a governing aspect, that's truly selfless service. That bill passed unanimously in the House and the Senate. So the first thing that changed was the governor-appointed board. We transitioned that over a several-year period. The governor did allow the elected officials to complete their terms. So in 2019, we transitioned 4 of the members, and then in 2021, the remaining 3. So now our board is fully governor. And then the other piece of the change was the restructuring of the funding model. The legal part is it repealed a section of the ORS, and it becomes effective January 1st of 2026. What this repeal basically does is places Cherriots on equal footing with the other 2 mass transit districts in Oregon who have access to funding by board action since their inception. And I would also add that both of those mass transit districts, their boards are governor appointed and have been since their inception. We were the only one that was different. So this gives us access through board action beginning January 1st of our available funding mechanisms. Next slide. So why are we doing this? So it's essential that we all live in a thriving community. And public transit is essential for that. Just like the Chamber, Cherriots believes in having a thriving community. The Chamber does that through a healthy business community, and we contribute to that through increased mobility so that people can access employment, education, and services common throughout the community. But I think it's important to hear for the ongoing discussion you have with the board is what do our customers and our community believe about Cherriots? So next slide. So we asked them. So we engaged a firm called ETC Institute. And over the last 3 years, we have surveyed our customers. In this case, customers are our riders and the community. We did it in the fall for the last 3 years. And ETC Institute did that survey work on our behalf. They're really a leader in market research for state and local governments. And actually 29 of the top 35 transit agencies in the country are their clients. I'm going to hit a few slides on what they told us, but I think it's important that you hear from the CEO of ETC Institute. His name is Chris Tatum. He normally doesn't present the governing bodies the results of the surveys. The project managers do. But the results that Cherriots had 2 years ago were so outstanding, he felt he needed to come on and talk about it. And then he came back again last year because the results were even better, and he just couldn't believe it. But I think it's more important that you hear what he says. So we have about a 1 minute long video clip, so if you could listen in, please.
But I'll summarize things before I even read the bullets. I presented to you a year ago, and I told you that you were one of the best transit agencies for whom I've delivered surveys. I did not expect your ratings to improve because they were so high a year ago, but I'm coming back a year later and telling you again, you're one of the best transit agencies for which I've delivered survey results, and you've actually gotten even better from a year ago. Some of the big things I took away from this before I get into the details most residents of the Salem area think Cherriots provides value to the community. That includes your Lyft customers, almost all of them, 96%, 92% of your bus customers, and nearly 9 out of 10 of the community members who were surveyed. In addition, as I mentioned up front, you're setting the standard for service delivery for transit agencies across the country. You actually rate above the national area in all areas, and you improved pretty much across the board from last year's very, very high results.
So that's the report he gave to our board. So if you're wondering about Cherriots, because we recognize not everyone's fully familiar with it, Cherriots provides an outstanding service to the community. You can all be proud of the work we do on your behalf. The work we do is important to not only our riders, but to our community. Next slide. So I got just a couple slides on what our customers told us. And the first slide I want to share is the results of our Net Promoter Score. Next slide. So many of you heard about the Net Promoter Score. It's a business measuring metric that measures customer loyalty and satisfaction. And Cherriots' Net Promoter Score was 77 points higher than the national average for the transit industry. You determine what your Net Promoter Score is by asking a question. And in this case, it was, how likely would you be to recommend, and for us, it's Cherriots bus service to a friend or family member. And then people respond at a 0 to 10 rating scale, 10 being highest. And you break that out. Cherriots' Net Promoter Score was 56. The national average is negative 21 for the transit industry. So any score, just to give you a frame of reference, if you haven't heard of that Net Promoter Score, any score above 0 is good, and any score higher than 50 is considered an above average organization. So our customers are extremely satisfied with the service we have, that we provide. Next slide. So when we look at ourselves from a business perspective, here are some nationally known businesses in their Net Promoter Score. So we're right there in competition, doing better than Disney, and on the heels of Netflix and Amazon. So I think we're in pretty good company when it comes to customer loyalty and satisfaction. Next slide. We asked our riders, what's the number one purpose they ride the bus? 59% said it's work, going to and from work. So if you have a business, just know that more than half our riders are either taking the bus to get to their job or they're on their way home from their job. And that's followed by going to an education. And they're riding all the time. 58% of our riders ride 5+ days a week. Another 28% ride 3 or 4 days a week. So the riders we have are riding all the time. So when they give us a Net Promoter Score and talk about our satisfaction, they know what they're talking about because they're out there every day and they understand what's happening. Next slide. We also asked them about satisfaction for bus service. Our ratings were 28% higher than the national average. Next slide. And when we come to safety and cleanliness, because we know safety is an important discussion topic in this community, and we want to know what our customers think about safety when it comes to using our service. So you can see 84% of the people we surveyed, they said they feel safe riding the bus, twice the national average. And another 73% feel safe and secure while they're waiting for the bus. And we exceeded the national average of bus cleanliness. And I talk about cleanliness because cleanliness is an important indicator of safety. A clean bus connotates a safe bus. So just to wrap that part up, this is Parker. Parker is one of our everyday riders. He primarily takes the bus to Schenectady Community College. One day he might be one of your future employees or become a business owner. But Parker is just an example of many of the riders that take our service to Schenectady. They rely on us to get to class. What we do is allow them the opportunity to achieve their educational goals so they can be more competitive in the workforce. And I should mention the 3 bus stops we have at Schenectady, when you combine the ridership, is the highest ridership bus stop outside of the downtown transit center. So that's what our customers have to say. A quick slide or two on what our community says. Next slide. And the important part about the community is we ask people who live here, not necessarily do they ride here. And actually, of the people we surveyed, 67% have either never ridden a Cherriots bus or they used to years ago but don't now. 14% ride once a month or less, and only 10% ride more than once a month. So when they tell us what they think about Cherriots, they're taking it from a community perspective, not necessarily a rider. So what did they say? Next slide. That Cherriots is a valuable part of the community, and it's not only valuable to the community, but values to themselves as well. Significantly higher than what the national average is when that question was asked. Next question. Next slide. So we also asked them, what could we do to get you to ride more often or ride, period? And the number one reason they would say they consider riding is more frequency. So what do we mean by frequency? That's how often does the bus come by your bus stop? So as you heard earlier, we have service that runs every 50, 30, or 60 minutes. If you live in a route that only comes every 60 minutes, and you miss the bus for whatever reason, it's pretty difficult to have to wait another hour for the bus. That means you probably are going to be late to work or missed your appointments. So that is what our customers and community told us. So let's talk about why this investment is needed. So after all this good news, you're saying, why do we need more money to invest? Well, we need to do more for this community. The level of service that we provide is excellent, but the service we provide is excellent, the level of service is not. And that's what our customers are telling us. Salem Keizer population is growing. This investment will help fill the unmet needs and gaps in our service area. We do not serve all parts of the Salem Keizer community. There are what we call transit vendors, but there's no service provided. This will help us to better reduce barriers to employment, education, healthcare appointments, increase the applicant pool, because now more people will be able to get to more work locations to compete for jobs, and give more people the ability to go to educational opportunities. What all that really is summed up, it's the ability to improve community livability for all residents, whether they ride a bus or they drive a car. Next slide. And our customers said they would like to see more funding over the next 5 years. What they really mean there is they need more service, and they recognize that the only way to get more service is through increased funding. So what will that funding look like? Okay. So to do this, we wanted to compare it to our peer city, which is Eugene. That's where Lane Transit District serves. So this chart shows the local contribution for Eugene, Springfield, and Salem Keizer. So the big bar on the left, the green slide, that's Lane Transit's local contribution. Their local contribution is derived through the employer payroll tax. And then the blue bar is Cherriots property tax revenue. Pretty significant disparity there. And why is that important? So you've heard, young people more and more are avoiding getting their driver's license. They don't want to drive. And if we want to make the Salem Keizer community attractive to them, we need to provide one of the amenities that are important to them. They're choosing to live because of quality of life. Back in my day, we chose where to live because that's where the jobs were. Today, they want to live where quality of life is good, and the jobs, they expect them to come to them. One of those important aspects of quality of life for young people is a robust public transportation service. They don't have to own a car. They don't need a driver's license. And when we compare ourselves to Eugene, and even TriMet, if you will, the young people are looking to those areas as opposed to us. And we want to bring those people here so that we can continue to have a thriving community. So this is a comparison when we add in the investment that we're talking about in the employer payroll tax. This bar chart shows the 0.7% employer tax. And so when you add that on top of the current property tax, it's pretty close to our peer agency, Lane Transit District, and it will help make us equitable and more competitive as an agency to improve community livability. And I should say, we say the words employer payroll tax a lot. That also includes a self-employment tax. So if the business community is going to make this kind of investment, it's fair to ask, what's the return on investment? So for every dollar invested in Cherriots, $2.15 is added back into the Salem and Keizer community. We derive that number by using the American Public Transportation Association's economic impact tool. So APTA is the transit industry's professional trade association, and they hired a firm to develop a tool that any transit agency can use to determine what the local economic impact is in their community. So we ran the numbers, and this is the number we got. A positive number that certainly shows that the payback is greater than the investment. Okay. So part of that ROI is we believe with every bus you see rolling, there is a local economic impact. Bet you didn't know that last year, Cherriots transacted with 103 local vendors in the Salem and Keizer community, along with our contracted service providers, spent over $13.7 million in the community. Pretty significant recycling of funds. Next slide. Next. So what will this investment get? So here's the service plan. Next slide. But before I talk about that, so we have been working, just so you know, to prepare for today. You can see here is a list of projects that we are working on right now. We've actually been working since 2019 with the transition of the board and then other studies to understand the unmet needs and the long-range transit plan that helps us guide where we should devote our resources. There's also these projects that are currently underway that are being done because they're the foundation for the new service. I want to talk about just a couple of them. The first one is the third bullet, the comprehensive operations analysis. So this is what transit agencies do every 3 to 4 years to assess the impact of their service. We have a consultant firm right now who is working that analysis to find out what works well, what doesn't work well, where can we make changes so that we're more effective and efficient. That study will also help us derive what the service needs to look like. And then you can see a couple of bullets there about transit centers. One of the important aspects of this new service plan is to round out the infrastructure that supports our transit service. Heard a lot about South Salem Transit Center. We're right in the middle of that. And then we've begun work on a Chemeketa Transit Center so that we can consolidate all 3 bus stops at Chemeketa Community College in one location. We're also working on some other projects right now that I think you'll find interesting. One is working with ODOT on the Center Street Bridge repairs. And that came right out of this room. A few months ago, the Chamber had the ODOT project manager speak to the Business Advocacy Group, and I was in the audience. And afterwards, I met with him, and we have partnered up, our staff and their staff, to look at ways that Cherriots can help reduce the congestion and maybe mitigate the ability for people to get across back and forth on the river, especially during the bigger parts of the construction. And we're also working with the city and really trying to promote the bus as an option, especially for downtown employees, so that they can avoid the paid parking. We are looking how can that be better. The downtown transit center is right there. We're right next to many of the businesses. The next slide. So our service change involves 2 pieces. The first is enhancements, and then is new service. So from enhancements in the first 5 years, and that's what I'm going to focus on. We've actually got plans for the first 5 years and then 6 years and greater, but this is the immediate impact. So the service enhancement will increase frequency on service hours, our hours of operation on all 3 parts of our service, weekdays, weekends, and holidays. We're utilizing technology to improve travel time with prioritized traffic signals. We're actually working on Lancaster right now to synchronize those traffic lights so our buses can get through intersections when they're running behind schedule. Improve bus stop safety and accessibility, and continue our transit center development. Next slide. The new service that you'll see from this investment includes on-demand transit service. Many of you may have heard what microtransit is. It's really the ability to use technology to do individual customer reserve rides, where we can team them up in an on-demand way, move them around town quicker, and if they need to go further than the zone they're in, we connect them with the big bus. Looking at a downtown circulator in the Salem downtown area with more frequent stops. We're planning to work with the Downtown Main Street Association to really build out that route, to bring people from the outlying areas into the core, especially during weekday lunch hours from the state offices, Land University, and Salem Health. We also will be returning special event service. Many of you may remember we used to provide service to the state fair. We used to have a special shuttle, the Salem Art Fair, and we want to also help get people to Riverfront Park. In the summer, as you all know, there are activities happening every weekend. We want to help people be able to access that. And then unifying our payment system, so regardless of how you move about town, you can have one app instead of having 3-4 apps on your phone. And then the last thing in new services, we recognize this is an investment from the business community and the establishment of a business community advisory committee to help us finalize what those service enhancements are. We generally know where we need more frequency and what type of, we need to know where should we prioritize the first impacts of new service and where should we make sure we're addressing if we implement the service. Next slide. And with all of that, here's the results of that investment. More frequency in hours of operation, a 47% increase in annual revenue hours once the full plan is implemented in the first 5 years. Less travel time for both bus riders because there will be more frequency. You don't have to wait as long. And there should be some less travel time for people in cars. Because the more people that ride the bus, that's less cars that are in front of you. Continue to improve safety and accessibility. And then also some soft ones, reduce greenhouse gas and traffic congestion. Ultimately, this provides better access to opportunities, whether that's a job, going to school, or utilizing services, are all that is offered at Salem. So here's the payroll tax calculator. So what does this really mean to individual businesses? I will tell you on our website, you have access to this calculator if you want to use it, but it's pretty straightforward. You take a look at your total annual payroll, multiply it by the factor of 0.007, that is 0.7%, and that becomes your employer payroll tax. So for example, if you have an annual payroll of $500,000, the annual tax comes out to be $3,500 a year. You might ask, why are we using $500,000 as an example? Well, according to the Oregon Employment Department, 2023, the average private sector annual payroll in the Salem, Keizer, River Grove Boundary area was just under, just under $500,000. So that's why we're using that example to show what the average employer would pay per year. Next slide. So that, I hope, gives you a baseline of who Cherriots is, what we do, the outstanding work that is done on all the community members' behalf. And before I turn it over to Tom and our board for discussion, I would just like to say thanks to the opportunity. Cherriots and the Chamber both believe in thriving communities. We do it in different ways, but the outcome is the same. And this would be a great opportunity for Cherriots and the Chamber to show this community we're joining together to really improve the livability for all people in the community, whether they choose to ride a bus or drive a car. It doesn't matter. You can enjoy yourself. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Now we are going to open this up for Q&A. And I'm going to remind, yep, I got you. Appreciate that. We're going to try and get to as many as possible. One of the things that is a benchmark of our organization is respect. Please have your question ready. You may provide a little bit of commentary, but if you're taking a long time on the mic, please know it is my duty on behalf of our board of directors to respectfully interrupt you and get additional questions asked. So if I have to do that, I apologize. With that, we're going to have a shared mic for our directors, and Allan Pollock, and I saw the first hand go up just because he was right in front of me. Scott will open it up for the first question. Please say your question loud. We're not going to be able to revolve mics around to everybody in the audience.
So rough math, $35,000 impact to my company with that tax. How do I sell it to my employees? Because this is coming out of bonuses, coming out of incentive plans. This is not just the only tax, obviously, that's being discussed here for January. What do I tell my team that now we have this new giant expense?
Allan, do you want to speak on like
How do I sell
the regulations and around Senate bill? Or Ian?
Thank you for the question. It's a great question. I think it's a question that's top of mind for most people in the room right here. And it's top of mind for us. I'll speak personally just for a moment. So I am the son of a small business owner. I'm also the grandson of a small business owner. I'm keenly aware from a kitchen table standpoint, the impact to small business when there are regulations based on it. I joined the board because of the passage of Senate Bill 1536, because the chamber, in hand with Cherriots, said, this is an investment we need to make with the community. And now I'm keenly aware that investments cost money, which is why for the past 6 years, myself and then my colleagues have been very focused on making sure that the investment actually nets a return. Now, as a business owner, you're keenly aware that sometimes you have to make investments, and those investments may not have an immediate payoff. Sometimes it's a long-term thing. I am confident, based on repeated surveys, both of our community, our customers, and then also significant outreach and analysis from third parties, that this will net a return on investment to your community, to your employees, to your customers.
I appreciate that, but specifically, how do I sell it? It's going to pay off. I can't do that. That's not going to hold muster. So what are they going to receive for, again, this is coming off, incentives come off of the bottom line. This comes off the bottom line, just straight off the bottom. I need to sell this because it's going to make decisions that will impact my team and my employees and our ability to do things for them. So it's going to pay off, it's going to work out is not an answer that my team's going to take. So what do I tell them?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a great question. I have a childcare center in Salem. Business to have 58 children, and right now we operate about 13 hours a day. A lot of my employees ride carriers. A lot of my customers are parents, I call them, riding. And we're in that area of having to pay $3,500 annually to be able to, to have this. But I make that off of 2 additional kids in 1 month. So if I can have increased service, if I can have an increased accessibility for parents to be able to get to my center to drop off their kids, I make that back in a month. I can turn that around and offer that as incentives to our employees. Say, okay, well now I can have paid trainings for you. I can have incentives. We can do reimbursement for continuing education. We want our teachers to be moving up in their career goals, and so we offer things like that. I wish we could offer more, but if we had the ability to be able to have more kids in our center to be able to generate more revenue, then I could offer that more. And so that's the way that I've been able to kind of think about it. Having that experience, as a business owner, I'm not sure exactly your business again, but I think that you can figure out how best it would support employees within your organization, whether you're writing it to access work or maybe you're utilizing that service to have other folks come in and do with that service. I know I used to work in the medical field before.
RJ, I've got to be able to get through a few.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
But we can talk later and.
And I don't want to rush panelists, I apologize, but I'm 9 deep on questions and I want to make sure we get through at least some of them. Next up is Jen, followed by Rick Metzger.
Real quick, where did that 0.007% come derive from? And have you looked at other options besides the business committee?
So specifically in Senate bill, it is a employer-paid payroll tax, just as how Lane Transit District and TriMet Transit operates, and the 0.7% is within the allowable percentage range. We're not allowed to go over 0.8%.
Why did we go high?
Well, we looked at how can we compete against our peer industries, specifically the transit district, and have an equitable level of local contribution. That's where the 7 cents came from.
Rick?
Allan, in your financials, are the current financials within your expectations for the service? You're going to have a special session in 3.5 weeks. If Governor Salem she has the votes for it, if that passes, it will double the transit payroll tax from what it currently is. If that passes, how does that influence this other discussion, since those financials are not included in the revenues?
I know that question was for Allan, but I'm gonna look to the board to see if anyone wants to take that question too. Just wanna be, everybody gets a chance to talk.
Sure, I can take that. It's a great question. It's one that's top of mind for us. So in addition to serving as board vice president, serve as chair of the Service Enhancement Committee along with Bill Holmstrom and RJ Navarro. And it is something that we have talked about for the last 2 years. What if the legislature passed? What if they don't have? Will they, won't they? And I'm sure you all read the news. And I sure hope that they have. And that has factored into our conversation. As President Miller mentioned, according to statute, we are allowed to go 0.8%. We did not want to go. Part of our thinking was specifically because of the legislature asked, because of the impact of the business community. As you saw in the bar charts, this would get us to the net local contribution on parity. Actually, it'd be less than Lane Transit, but as close to parity as we could get without sitting on it.
Mike Herron, followed by, past President Herron, followed by Mike Ruthven.
Thank you, Mike Herron, Goods Industries. Quick commentary. Our business is not at pre-COVID levels of business. And if our board could just magically grow new revenue into being, we would. And I'm sure everyone would do the same. My question is, what local and regional economic data you can look at have you evaluated that said now is the time? The business community is thriving. Now is the time for us to hoist a new tax on business. What economic data, what economic studies on our side of the equation have you been looking at?
Can you speak on economic data?
To answer your question, this was derived more upon the effective date of the bill, and actually for the last 6 years, the loss of the ability to enhance transit is the perspective we took it from. And when this happens, there's going to be ups and downs in the economy, and that will impact the revenue we receive. But we waited for the 6 years. That was an agreement. So that is the impetus of moving forward, was agreeing to delay until now. Because originally it was supposed to be immediate. So we've lost some good years and lost some bad years in that process.
Mike Erdman.
Yeah, if I've got your numbers right, correct me if I'm wrong, your budget's about 148 million, and you do about 3.5 million rides a year. It's $42 a ride. So the question, I guess, is, given the evolving way that we get around, would we be better off, frankly, just giving both Uber and Lyft certificates, perhaps retaining the ability to move the disabled around in a Cherriots Board vehicle? It seems like we'd be vastly less expensive to use Uber and Lyft for those $42 a ride.
Thank you so much for your question. Uber and Lyft services do not have vehicles that are paratransit accessible. A lot of our riders use mobility aids that may not be able to be moved by said vehicles or could be damaged by said vehicles. It also does not give the autonomy for the individual to have to schedule every single individual ride. There's also the infrastructure question. How do you get vouchers to all of those individuals? We could go on and et cetera here, but Uber is provided in 2024 3 million rides for the entire state of Oregon. They cannot replace what we do.
Past President Sullivan.
Thanks for being here. The last poll that was taken of our community about Cherriots was in 2017, and that was the last vote on the payroll tax, and we all know how that turned out. Why do you think that sentiment has changed enough that the community, if they had to pay for this, you think that they would support Cherriots in that way?
In our surveys that we did within the last year, the overwhelming sentiment was the need for increased service and frequency. And they also understand that behind that, there was a second question that said, how would we be able to do this? They understand that we would need additional revenue to be able to make those investments. And I think I wanted to circle back really quickly to get a clearer answer around the STIF funding. So for us, an increase of 0.02 would mean an increase of approximately $10 million, but it is out of district. There's a lot of restrictions around the funding. So right now we do the Cherriots Regional, Woodburn Transit, Monmouth Independence Trolley, Silverton Trolley. And less of that money would be actually be able to stay in district. Again, like I said, it would just be focusing and supporting some other services. So your local contributions are what keeps it to our local service.
Joel Blount, followed by Larry Jackson.
I wanted to be clear about who pays this tax. Is it all employers, including governmental organizations? And what is the district? Is it your service district? And I just want to point out that I thought that your budget was 52 million last year. So this represents a 75% increase. Why wouldn't you go with a smaller increase, say 0.2 tax, and expand service in some of these areas, expand the number of buses, and see how that goes, and come back to the business community with a report that says, hey, we spent 15 million instead of 39 million, and here's the return on investment, rather than going for growth with almost a maximum tax of 0.7. Great job in providing service. I don't think anybody here questions that. It's just about the cost for it and what we can all bear.
I can clarify service district. All businesses within the Salem Keizer UGB will be subject to this, including sole proprietorships and individuals.
And then I could even include our largest employer, the state.
Yeah.
Of course there is.
So this is based on the Oregon revised statute, so we're operating under the Master Transit District statute, and the following are exempt according to state law. Federal credit unions, public school districts, 503, nonprofit and tax exempt institutions, insurance companies, and domestic service and private home.
State of Oregon is subject then to this.
Will we get the
No.
We already.
I want to talk a little bit about the history for just a second. We mentioned that the repeal was to bring us up to the level of our peers. We were line item excluded for being able to move forward from the very beginning. Our peers have had access to this funding for years beyond us. And when we did pass it, we added a buffer of time so the business community would have time to prepare for such a tax. We have waited, and our community has waited, and we've told them and we've asked what they want. And they've been very clear over and over again what they're looking for. It is our job to bring them up to the same that our peers are at. Like we said, lane transit, TriMet, the level of contribution from the local community has to be met so that we're able to bring it to them. Our community has waited a long time to get to this point, and I understand that there's concern in this room, but we have to answer to them as well. And they have been asking us and asking us, and they're here to work intelligence and bring that.
Larry Jackson, followed by Jonathan Castro Monroe.
Director Allan, but after RJ's comment, what I heard you say was work harder for less. For me, it was a shock. I said the same thing last time we were here, Allan. I've never had someone step off the bus and hand me their keys to fix their car. I will get nothing from it.
Yeah, before I turn it over to RJ, I also wanted to go back to the state of Oregon payment. They do pay $11 million in lieu.
Thank you, great question. I used to run a shop right around the corner from you. I don't know if you ever see me. I was over by 100 Radiator and Capital Transmission and a little shop back there, Oregon's Finest Automotive. My employees would ride the bus to my shop. And that would free up my time so that I could go out and look at vehicles that somebody had parked in the garage, and we did automotive customization. and restoration. And so I go look at their vehicles, I give them an estimate, that free up my time to do that so that my employees can come in. But if I had the ability to have more service on Saturdays, I could be open on Saturdays, and they'd love to work on Saturdays, they'd love to get more hours. So it is an investment, and I understand that, people aren't gonna come in and hand you the keys, but if their vehicle gets towed to you, they can catch the bus to come pick it up. So there's multiple ways that, companies are thinking that.
Jonathan Castro, followed by RJ.
Thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan, and I grew up in one of the poorest areas of town. They call it Belgian Flats. And I actually used the buses, but I never saw it half full, ever. Okay? Now I'm a grown up, due to my line of business, I do travel all over the city. I never seen it half full. So my question to you is the following. What's your passenger capacity rate? And what's the actual usage rate based on that capacity?
Good question.
So our users are 70% bus reliant. So out of the people that take our bus, 70% of them, that's their mode of transportation that they take.
Let's please allow our director a chance to answer. I believe she's building to that moment.
Therefore, our customers rely on us to get them through rush hour in the morning, and we also need to be available if their kid calls in sick from school, or if they need to get to a divorce proceeding at the courthouse in the middle of the day. And so our success is measured on amount of rides that the system is able to provide. How many times we connect somebody to the place that they're trying to go. It's a system that works together. And we told you that our rides are 3 million for 2024. And we have a lower cost per ride than our peers. So we have an efficient service for the amount of money that we have. Changing that system changes the connectability, changes the people's ability to make their transfers, go to the place they need to go, et cetera. So we measure by the amount of rides that we're able to do and the cost per ride.
So you don't have a passenger capacity for all your rides?
There are two different companies that make US-made vehicles. Almost all the grants that we get for buses require you to have a US-made bus. And there are very few sizes to choose from. We've got the big bus and we've got the little bus. And so just like any restaurant is not going to build for their slowest part of the day, they're going to build for their busiest part of the day. Our system is interchangeable, meaning the buses can be switched out for rides, for maintenance, et cetera, which makes it a more cost-efficient system. And so we make decisions for the long haul and for the efficiency of the system. The percent occupancy has little bearing on the efficiency of the system or the cost it takes to run it. Those are measured in other ways.
RJ followed by Director Sparkman.
So a couple of years ago, I had a vehicle that broke down, and I decided on depending on Cherriots over a period of time, see what it's like to ride the bus. I have students I teach in high school, and at the time, Cherriots was going through a lot of changes, a lot of expansion, and I was able to share my experience. And over the past couple of years, watching the growth that's taking place, I think needs. I also have a type B with the community to understand what the needs are in the community for a system also come from a place that's at a robust bus system to come from a place that's not at the bus system. When I look at what's the gaps, I understand the concern of many in this room, but I also want to express the need of the community and the importance of a bus system and a growing community for people to be able to get to your place to be able to do business at your establishments. We are a community. And when it comes to communicating what the payback is or the return on investment for those that are going to have to suffer a little bit, to be able to expand the area that we live, think about the things that are concerns in this community.
RJ, do you have a question?
I do have a question. My question is, how do you plan on communicating to the community, to the constituents, what the return on investment is, kind of lead out, so that some of the apprehensions and concerns can be settled, as this is a much needed service in our
Thank you so much for the question. We have started a community awareness campaign called Creating Community Connections. We are attempting to be as highly visible at different community events as we can be, engaging people people in kind of a how-to and a simple, learning and engagement exercises. We have an online presence and social media hoping to help people understand of public transportation in their community, to their neighbors, and really to educate riders and non-riders alike on the benefits and the promise that public transportation has in our community. The hold and the vitality that it can create here, the way it will attract people. That's what I'm most excited about. I don't know if others want to speak.
Okay. Director Sparkman has deferred. Amy.
I have two questions. You said you had over 3 million rides. Do you know how many unique riders you have? And secondly, I understand Mr. Navarro is a private business owner. Who else on the panel owns a private business? What could you share with us?
I own a consulting business here in the Salem and Keizer area, and
How many unique riders do you have?
We don't have that number. We would have to have a pretty invasive tracking system to be able to figure that out. So we are able to state confidently that we have 3.3 million rides this year, but without doing some pretty intensive Big Brother tracking, we are not able to do that kind of unique level ridership breakout. And that's common among the industry.
My wife just started her own firm and will be subject to the tax.
I run a nonprofit in the area that has a $2 million payroll, so I will also be, and my nonprofit is not, can we calm down? Thank you. My nonprofit is not a 501c3 and will be subject to the tax.
Past President Albritton.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Just a couple observations and I guess a question. One observation is a very obviously upset business owner. They're paying money that's talking for real money. But when they're asking questions, there's lots of workers on board basis. This is a authoritarian power grab. I think the government. What's insane about that is that this board was told no, the board was told no back when we did. We said no, we're not going to do this. I would encourage you to read the room a little bit better. What County said we're not going to do any more taxes. The consumer is really hurting right now. A lot of consumers right now. Questions. One, how many cash are sitting on a balance sheet? And then two, one thing that I really think this money is going towards is I think you're going to get a huge increase to your employees. That's highly concerning. I think we're going to pay for elsewhere. And I would also just caution about the word. You keep using the word investment. It's not a business investment. This is a business that and that's unfortunate because we believe, I think we believe in the bus system. Makes a lot of sense. You prepare yourself to plane, train, the same amount of money, but you do less than half of the rides that they do. You do 6.3 million. That's not the council's. Any question that the audience has, you don't have an answer to, other than the talking points that you guys can prepare with. So, Allan, you know how much I appreciate you. I think you're a great man, and but I think this is really a response.
We are starting with the chambers because of the fact that the Chamber's advocacy directly supported the revenue change back in 2018. Currently, our fiscal year 26 budget is over $154 million. Our unappropriated reserve is over $42 million. All of that information is available on our website. The general fund operating cost increase from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 24 was over 51%. The amount of money that this is going to take is not only in the staff time, which as many of you all know, that the majority of our budgets go to people, but that also means to have increased frequency, to be able to run more frequent buses. That also means that we need to buy more buses. There's easier investments that we're going to be making, such as being able to increase frequency on weekends. because we already have those buses to be able to maintain the service that we have on weekday service. But to be able to then take a bus service from 60 minutes down to 30 minutes, that means we need more buses, we need more drivers, we need more people taking care of those buses.
Director Vu, followed by Daryl.
So I think a $42 million surplus, is that for operating? Is that right?
That's not a surplus, it's our reserves.
The money you haven't spent.
Money that makes sure that if we, for some reason, suddenly stop receiving any money from the federal government or the state of Oregon, we would still be able to operate for at least 6 months.
After double that. So I guess my perception is that people in the community, 10% of the population actually uses the bus. So for every rider, there's 9 people like that. What I've heard in all this is your frequency and the increase is talking about serving the existing ridership. And my hope is that, I guess my question is, what are the programs that you're doing so that more than 10% of the population uses the bus? So you're increasing that. For employers, the employer that I work for, we have 56 employees, and 3 of them use the bus. And the only reason they use it is the last resort. So what is Cherriots doing going to be differently so that it is more of a desired mode of transportation than a last resort mode of transportation?
That's exactly what we would get, but I think Bill or Ian, both of you, would like to want to answer?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's what we want to do, right? Right, we want people to ride the buses as much as possible. We want to be as useful for them, and that's what we've been trying to do, to build a foundation to get there, so that we're able to, with any additional revenue, any additional investment, that we're able to build on that and attract new folks, as well as serving the existing folks better. We're doing that through the frequency. If you don't ride the bus a lot, frequency may not make sense, really. I mean, it makes sense, but you don't understand how it's the most important thing. You can have a bus stop in front of your business or in front of your home, but the bus doesn't come very often. It's not useful for you. So increasing that frequency, folks that may not have been able to make a trip before because it didn't work for their schedule, maybe they could make it one way but not come back, which isn't very useful for you. They may able to make that trip because it goes later, it runs at a time that it runs. So that attracts more people. There are places in our community where we have very little service or don't have any service at all. And we're looking at new models of being able to serve those areas where people who didn't have access before will be able to access. So those are the kinds of things that the nuts and bolts, basic transit service stuff that we're trying to do to get more people to ride those buses. Because whoever said that we lane serve more people, absolutely, they've got more resources, they've got more buses, they run more often. Of course they serve more people, they should. That makes more sense, and that's where we want to get to as well.
Right now, the incremental changes, the doubling of taxes that come from the proposed bills coming in, and then the money we have, would Cherriots just simply take incremental steps, increase the number of frequencies or have existing to show that if we have more frequency within the routes, take it from 60 minutes down to 10 or 15, and show that more people actually want it. That would change my perception of the bus service actually design.
So this actually happened in 2019. Because of the state investments, we as a board made more frequency. We provided more service. When we saw an increase in ridership from where? From
if you're at 10% now, we're working at
10% of.
You say 10% of the population, right?
Oh, okay.
So right now,
I'm not aware from 2019. I can get you that information. Yeah.
Not trying to super push back here, but you noted that you could not get individual ridership. That doesn't translate at all in the business community. We know our customers, and you're using an app-based system, correct?
For some of our riders, if they opt in,
okay. I would charge you guys and please beg you to be able to identify individual ridership. That to me seems incredibly fair of our community to ask. Incredibly fair.
If you pay cash, how are we tracking?
You told us that a lot of drivers back this week. How do you know that?
because of the survey that was filled out. The people that were riding the bus, we asked them, how often do you ride the bus? They said 5 or more days a week. Where do you go? We take
You
it to
have the
work.
data for someone to statistically analyze that and come up with an estimate.
Yeah, there has to be some data points that can be derived from that. Daryl.
Good morning, thank you for being here, thank you for volunteering. One of your slides talked about what percentage was, and 21% said lower costs, which leads me to believe 79% are okay with what they're paying, or might be willing to pay more. What is a full fair cost compared to TriMet and Lane Transit District? And what are your plans to increase the cost of drivers to be a better price, right? Inflation has gone up, costs have gone up. How often are we charging you for the service they really like?
So we recently just updated our fares, and we are currently at $8.60 per ride. We also have, with the implementation of the UO Pass program, sometimes folks don't want to commit to having like a full day pass or a full month-long pass. But as people ride, if they're using the UMO process, once they get to like that month-long charge, we're not going to continue like overcharging them because it would just be what they would have paid for a month-long pass anyway. I don't know off the top of my head how much TriMet or Lane charges per ride. Does anybody?
Lane is $1.75.
Lane is $1.75.
What percentage of the ridership is riding for free, meaning they are under 18?
The percentage of riders under 18.
About 30%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30% sounds right.
So did you say $11? You say $8 to make it all?
It's $1.60 a ride.
And you don't know how that compares.
Well, I just got that Lane charges $1.75
TriMet's $2.
and TriMet charges $2.80.
Okay, so we could increase those, right? If you want to be comparative to your neighbors, a proposal to increase the rates to what private would be a sign that you're willing to spread the costs, because you're comparing yourself to two other agencies a lot. So let's do that.
Well, we also want the same local investment that TriMet and Lane are getting, and we have pre-pandemic service level, they don't.
Do Lane, both Lane and Metro offer 18 and under riding for free?
Lane does.
Lane does, Lane Transit District does.
Will, followed by Ashley, followed by TJ, followed by Corey, followed by Nick, followed by Ryan, followed by Braden, followed by John Miller, followed by Mark Boyd, followed by Selena. You get the picture. Will, please.
I'm the CEO of Garden Services. I just want to express gratitude for your service to help people with disabilities get to my place of work. So all the best things, but it's a needed service in our community for people who can't help themselves. Our business thrives on working on people with disabilities and helping them become more visible in the community. And one of those ways is having them on the bus and having them not have to be driven by private parties. And so I think it's a good service. I don't want to get into all the rest of it, but I just want to give one good thumbs up to you guys for my business.
Thank you, Will. Ashley.
Hi, Ashley Person with the Center for Open Safety. I'm the Executive Director. I also just want to give some kudos and talk about a little bit of how beneficial the service is to survivors of domestic violence. We're one of the nonprofits that benefits from the reduced rates, but we are seeing significant ridership among survivors that come to be in our emergency shelter. Right now we have over 65 women and children are full, and we also have people scatter site around the community in hotels because they need confidential places.
Question, Ashley.
They're all, it's a comment response to some of the investment in the community. So this kind of investment means that survivors are able to get to employment, to housing, from shelter to employment. But I hear the struggle in the room. Our nonprofit is exempt because we are 501c3, but doing the back of the envelope math is panic inducing because it's a lot of money. And so I just wanted to share about the investment and how important it is to people to put a face to the people that it's important.
We recognize many of our nonprofits depend on this service. TJ?
I was in the room with Peter Courtney in 2017, and listened to him scream and swear and yell at us over this, and he would be rolling in his grave if he knew that this was happening. The agreement was that Cherriots would be reaching out to the chamber to find business people to be on the board to help prevent things like this from happening, and that this would be brought about only in the event that for some reason you lost state funding and the payroll tax could be implemented. It wasn't to be in addition to.
Corey?
My question is, reviewing the information, with the way that you guys have the taxes set up, is not so much dealing with the company revenue or anything like that, it's based on how many employees they have. So if my company ends up getting an annual revenue of, let's say, 1.4 million, but I only have a net profit of 5% of that, which equates to around 70%, I'm still gonna have to pay roughly $10,000, which is over 13% of my total annual profit. So how are you guys able to explain that and justify?
Corey, we got your question. Perfect. We need to really speed this up, and I apologize for being a grumpy guy.
The tax rate is based on the amount of payroll, so whatever you report on your payroll is what the tax rate is based off of.
Nick?
How long does you guys raise rates? I only think because when I was in high school in 2008, I rode the bus a couple times and it was like 95 cents. So in 20 years, we've only raised it 50 cents, whereas gas tax has gone up, property value has gone up. It seems to be equitable for all parties involved that riders also share that burden with business owners. So if you raise the rates maybe 30, 40 cents, then you can lower the business payroll tax down to maybe 0.003%. I don't know, but have you considered raising rates again to supplement these shortfalls, I guess, if you call it that?
Again, this is like more about investing in what our riders in the community is happening. It's not a shortfall. And also, this is the conversation that we want to have because we wanted to hear exactly what it is that you're feeling. Like, I just want to also say 0.07% is not set in stone, but again, we can't have that discussion. That discussion has to happen in a board meeting.
I suppose, but if it didn't even cross the table to begin with, like, oh, should we raise rates on people? And it's like, let's just do 7% on the business, 0.007% on business owners. Then I feel like
It's a mechanism that's available to them.
Yes, it's one we're keenly aware of. Every 3 years, we do a fair analysis, and then just, I think 2 months ago, we initiated a renewed discussion on fair.
But when did the rates get raised? That's what he asked. Have they been raised?
I can get back to you, I don't know the exact date.
It looks like they haven't been raised in like 12 years.
It's been a while.
Braden Sparkman. You're good? Past President John Miller.
Yeah, I kind of marvel at the gymnastics you go through to rationalize this. For instance, that Allan, you referred to the fact that this operation represents all of us, but it made the conversation several times that your customer is only the right. And being the payer for this service, I feel like I'm your customer. And so when you say that you ask your customer what they want, I think I have to be included in that is being questioned as to what I want as a customer.
Yeah, thank you for that point. I think you're right. I think everyone, including folks who are gonna pay the taxes, people who pay taxes now, people who pay potential future taxes, absolutely have a voice and are our customers, right? And I think that's one reason why we're here and want to have this conversation is we want to hear what's valuable, what services can we provide that are useful for the community, for the folks that are here, and just, to have that conversation and absolutely open to that. Nothing, we have some ideas about where that could go, and we have some things that there's sideboards we have, of course, with all those, the federal and state money that comes in. There's only certain things we can and can't do. We're a highly regulated industry, but within those sideboards, actually happy to have these conversations.
Director Holstrom and as well as President Bressy. So if the governor comes back and you find out you do in fact have a doubling, where, because you haven't made a determination on this, you potentially are going to have a doubling of transit dollars coming into this community through governor's action. Is the intent to also go on top with this dollar amount? I know you can't discuss your board plan, but is there a notion that we're not really going to be concerned with the governor's plan at all? Because that would be a huge influx of dollars for Cherriots.
As I stated earlier, it's something that we are keenly aware of, and we hope that it does pass. But as President Eno expressly mentioned, the investment that would actually go to Cherriots, particularly Cherriots within the Salem Keizer urban area, is significantly less than you might imagine. Significantly less than whatever we're contemplating here.
Mark Hoyt, followed by Selena.
Board member Duncan indicated that you measure success by rides and cost per ride. What is the current cost per ride? And then what is the projected number of rides, projected cost per ride with this funding in place to expand the service support? And then just as a follow-up in the comments about Eugene and Portland have different funding sources. You guys have some impressive performance metrics. Thank you for sharing those. Have you looked at theirs and made a determination as to whether their dollars are actually helping their performance or not?
So Allan mentioned that we benchmark ourselves against industry peers. Two of those industry peers are in fact Lane Transit District and you saw with those awards, we are in many categories we're lacking them. Our cost per ride is significantly cheaper than both Lane and Transit and Transit. And that's something that we intend to keep moving forward. That with this investment, we would continue to operate a lean operation.
But what's the projected cost per ride after the expansion?
After the expansion?
Yeah.
It depends on the ridership. That's the other variable, of course.
Cost per operating mile, then. Currently it's $15.80 per revenue mile. What would that
Our
go to?
operating expenses per vehicle revenue mile is $13.73, and then in comparison to Lake Transit District, they're at $17.88, and TriMet is at $19.10.
So they're spending more money less efficiently. Are they obtaining the same performance metrics that you guys are in terms of ridership satisfaction? And then they're not.
They're not.
So you're spending less money doing a better job.
Correct.
And you want more money because they have more money or doing a worse job.
We want more money because we want to do an even better job of what we could offer to the Salem area and Keizer area and beyond. Because like I said, it's entirely unacceptable to be waiting for a bus for an hour. It goes back to the statement over here that it becomes the last resort. Who wants to wait an hour to get somewhere? We don't want that to be the case.
Understand, I grew up as a kid at public buses to and from school for 3 years. And I understand how busing can open up the world to people who don't have other kinds of transportation. I don't think anybody in the room is opposed to the bus system. I think we all believe it's important to our community. The question is it being stewarded in a way that makes sense to the rider and to the business community it serves? You're talking about a $39 million budget increase. Data shows that the $1 is supposed to be $2.15. Are you guys going to track and say, was there a $90 million increase in revenue in Salem after this is implemented? Because that's what you're telling us the return would be, and how do we know that? Post, are you guys going to be able to track and provide that data?
I don't have a perfect answer, but I'm doing my best here. When we talked about districting a couple of years ago, we almost looked at splitting this district in half because of the amount of projected population growth we're going to see in the city of Salem. And so we're not coming to you today right now because the sky is immediately falling. We want to be a good business partner to you guys, and so we look at what's coming down the pipe, and we want to be able to be prepared. Like we said, most of our riders are going to work, or they're going to education, or they're going to go spend money at businesses like yours. And so we want to make sure that we're providing the service to meet that growth, not to catch up to it. And so, yes, we know that we're doing what we can on the budget that we have, but we also know where Salem is going, and we don't want to be left by our peers because we didn't keep up with the population growth that we know is coming. And we all know that your businesses will need that transportation. We know that your employees will be looking for it. Right now, the average American cannot afford an average $600 unexpected expenditure. That's the cost of tires. I actually had a meeting yesterday with one of the lightning rods from SLF, shout out SLF, and they had to cancel on me because their car had broken down and their wife was using the other vehicle, and so they canceled. And a city that has a robust bus service provides the service to fill those gaps. And we're not coming to you as a community partner like, oh, we just realized. No, we know what's going to happen. We want to be good stewards to you. So that's my answer.
So Lena, followed by Terry, followed by Ryan. By the way, we are over our time. For those of you hanging on here, thank you, but especially thank you to our directors and our general manager who thought they were coming to a meeting concluding at 11:30. Obviously, the magnitude of this crowd, I think you recognize the moment, so we want to extend a thank you for hanging on here. Selena first.
That you want to, with these changes or with this increase, that you would increase ridership, have more people riding. You've also compared yourself quite a lot to Lane County. I think your population differences, especially when you look at the University of Oregon in Lane County and how many students are riding, probably utilizing their bus or their transit system, to kind of seems apples and oranges. So where do you see more ridership coming from in our population?
I'll take that. So with the university question, it's a great question. Obviously, Eugene is not Salem. There are differences. Now, I will note that as of, I think, May, what month are we in? September service enhancements, we will have, for the first time ever in Cherriots history, we will be able to run a bus to Corwin University. And that's because of infrastructure investments that the city of Salem has made. It was not possible previously to that. And in addition to state level investment, we now have a route that runs from connecting Southeast Salem to East Salem, the Route 22. And those two coupled things, we are going to see and are seeing ridership increases there. And so there are under-invested areas of transit. We want to serve those areas. The level of frequency is not sufficient for many of the areas. Where I live, it is not sufficient. My neighbors regularly complain to me that the bus does not come frequently enough. And that impacts their lives. Until the Route 22 came, people that attended my church that were transit dependent could not get to church. And so the impacts are, yes, economic, but they're far beyond economic. The value we provide is more than the dollar and cents, but we are keenly aware of the dollar and cents.
Terry, followed by Ryan.
So this is Terry. This is a lot to take in, and I'm going to try to put it in a nutshell. So tourism is great, right? The buses help with tourism. It's really important as a traveler to have transit when they come into town, so that's good. We're helping a lot of needy people. That's good. It's great to see that you're focusing on the colleges. That's good too, because those are the people who really need this. I think as business people, though, what we need, and you're asking what we're feeling taken advantage of. And we need to understand and know that you can be fiscally responsible too, because if we're not fiscally responsible, we lose our businesses. We can't produce a new product. We can't come up with anything better if we don't have the funds first. And so we want you to operate in that same way. And we're just wanting to make sure that that happens, because you can't just keep digging in our pockets because it's not there. And so what are you doing about that? How are you being fiscally responsible?
I think one other than being able to take the question, I appreciate.
I will take the question. They've shown financial responsibility. The metrics have proven that. I think what we're talking about is a pretty paradigm shift between funding mechanisms that fall directly on the back of the business community. Ryan Tripp.
Yeah, so I worked in government for a long time, and I've used Cherriots and whatnot, so I think you guys do a good job. But what troubles me about what you're proposing here is, like, when you compare whether the state revenue comes or doesn't come, you're going to chase it based on, what lane makes or what metro makes. Generally, the way the business would be more comfortable with this discussion would be, what's the quality metric you're trying to reach? What standard of service are you trying to reach? And then we sit down at the table with you to figure out the most equitable way to pay for it so everyone has skin in the game. The idea that, like, I've gone to great lengths to try to disconnect and separate yourself from the city of Salem because people have clearly demonstrated anti-sentiment to their chasing the money. But what you're doing is very similar to what they're doing, because they didn't care if the legislature passed the fee in lieu of. They were gonna pursue the property tax increase anyway, right?
Got a
So
question,
my
Ryan?
question is, why are you not setting a quality metric that we can measure benchmarks against and hold you accountable to whether you've achieved what you're trying to achieve? Because right now, it seems like, give us the money and any amount, we'll figure out a way to, what we're gonna do with it. That's trouble.
I think that's a great question, and maybe what I would like to do is just back up and maybe say, I'm sorry if we haven't communicated that appropriately. We do have very specific quality benchmarks and metrics that we hold ourselves to a standard already. Some of that information Allan already provided with like our net promoter score and things like that. And we want to be able to continue to increase that net promoter score. We know that based on our surveys from both the community and our writers that we have a sense of some of the things that they want us to do, such as increasing frequency. And that's where we're seeing a lot of this money need to come from. And also, the other reason that we're here is also, one, like I said, to hear from you. And if y'all have ideas of, hey, the way that I can make sure that my staff are getting to like work on time is I need them to be able to get off the bus at 10:15 and your bus pulls up at 10:30. Or I need you to put a route on this street because I have a lot of staff that either like, they say that that's a big barrier for them to be able to cross. That's how we ended up with our newest route, Route 22, that is now going to be servicing Corbin University, is because people were saying, we want to do this. We want to be able to ride the bus, but it takes me too long. And we want to hear from you. What would you like to see from us as a partner, as a good financial steward, and a continuation of these conversations?
Guys, real quick on this one, I want to say on our website, we have a dashboard that has a whole variety of measures updated regularly. You can see what is it that our organization values and how are we doing against those measures. And so we've been doing that for at least the last year or two or even longer, 4 years, So you can see how our performance has been. I think as a board member, I've never been wanting more information about how we're doing because the organization measures itself quite a bit. And so it's all public on our website. Happy to take a look. And if there's anything else that you think we should measure, we're happy to hear about that too.
Is the transit district willing to have the community affirm and put to vote this increase?
We can't talk about that right now, unfortunately. Like that's giving you an answer would be kind of like a discussion that falls out of the bounds.
Okay, we would officially enter then for the records, the Salem Chamber would like to ask if transit and their considerations are willing to bet on themselves that the community truly wants this and would be willing to take this out to a vote of the people. Angela Plowhead.
As business people, we are going to over and over again to have money taken out of our revenue to pay another tax. This is just yet another tax. Salem has already said we don't want another tax on our business owners, and we have to pay our own commutes. And you're telling us you want us to pay for the commutes for your employees. I know my employees don't use the bus. My consumers don't use the bus. So how do you justify telling the community that we need to pay for the commutes for every single person, but yet have been willing to raise the rider cost?
Our fee for riding the bus is always something that's like up for conversation.
But it has to be considered your willingness and the consideration this process. So as a business owner, that's really frustrating to me that you want all the costs to come out of my pocket, but you don't necessarily want to come out the person who's actually using the service.
That's a shame.
So for the past 45 years, every property tax owner in the Salem and Keizer urban growth area has been paying for transit service, whether or not you use it. That's untrue. What we are considering is a different revenue stream.
An additional, an additional revenue.
And our property taxes have gone way up. And we've been paying.
Jim Boo.
So what I heard from that is increasing ridership and for businesses that we want more of employees as well as every one of the companies like buses. Can I ask within Cherriots, your 200 employees, even broken down for employee versus admin, how many of those people can
That's a great question. I think, I can speak for all of the employees that are currently present, they all ride the bus. And I also think that I want to add, if you weren't aware, we also are happy to partner with other businesses to be able to provide like employee bus passes. I think we have a few businesses that take advantage of that. Back when the state of Oregon had everybody working in person, that a lot of the employees were utilizing that service as well. So a lot of, like we said, we want to make sure that we're collaborating as best we can.
It's just a measure in terms of if you want the employers and employees to ride the bus more, I have to look at yourself with how much of the organization of people actually use the bus, so it's more reliable than the last option.
I mean, do we have that number off the top of our heads?
So we can get that data based on people that utilize the UMO electronic fare payment system. But remember, a lot of our employees are drivers, and they have to get to work because they take the buses out. The buses aren't out in service. But administrative employees, I don't have an exact count of how many use it to and from work, but they use it to and from to conduct business. And that's where I use the bus mostly, is going to meetings and other events, even when I don't ride it to work. But and then our night shift mechanics, they can't ride the bus because the buses are all in the yard when they go home. So.
Yeah, how many of the percentage?
Like I said, we'll follow up with the number, but I also want to highlight, not every single one of our admin staff lives in Salem Keizer, just like any other business. And so, yes, we provide regional service to some of those areas, but not to all of them. There's also the important factor that a lot of families are one-car families. My family is a one-car family. Sometimes I take the car, sometimes I take the bus, depends on my partner's schedule. So we could go and find that information, but it will not necessarily be a snapshot of it, of the quality of service or things like that. It would just be a snapshot of who has the ability to take the current service from our team.
It's a reflection of how you incorporate the transit into real life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point.
Yes.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, I think one thing that we have been trying to emphasize here is that the service that Cherriots provides presently is excellent. You saw different graphs, charts, awards recognizing that, but the level of service is not. It is deficient. And that is why we would perhaps like to ride the bus, but cannot, because the level of service is not to where the community needs it to be.
I'm somebody personally in our organization that really wants open transparency, and I'm a little bit, and Allan and President Cressy, I'm hoping you can help me on this, just for clarity. We were in a room not about a month ago, I believe it was, Director Duncan, myself, and a few others, and I had done as due diligence as a CEO and looked at your resumes, which are all public knowledge. And I made a statement that said, you do not have business representation in any of your 7 positions. And not one person retorted that. Nobody said, wait, I'm a business owner. But today, I'm now hearing that RJ and Joaquin are business owners. Why was that not shared to me and our group when we sat in front and everybody agreed? There's no business representation amongst the 7 of you. And now today, we're finding out as an organization, 2 of you are business owners.
I think that's a really great question. We've talked before. We've talked specifically about business issues on how we can support business. And I related that I was a business owner and why that incubation idea to support Latino-owned businesses over at MNSL was something that I was really passionate about and did those things. But so we had that conversation and I thought we understood that. But maybe if there's another way that I could put that into my bio online or something, we could do that. But I think having that relationship in the community where we know each other, intimately, to know, okay, well, this is where he can represent me, this is where I can go to him for help, is important more so than not having an answer off the cuff at a meeting.
Well, the reason I share this, RJ, is it's very troubling. You started the meeting by saying we are more diverse than we've ever been before. Imagine being in this audience and 7 directors are in front of us and not one is a business owner. Now today we may have found out that 2 are. We say we want a diversified group in front of us, and yet we sit here and we don't have one business owner in your 7 people, despite and Peter Courtney's direction to have business representation on your board. Can you see why this is a major disconnect for our business community in Salem and Keizer?
I would like to say that I know that we mentioned on our board that in the new plan, we're going to have a business advisory committee. We do have a position right now that has been reserved for a business member on our community advisory committee that is sat vacant for the last 5 years. I would love to have anyone in this room join that position. That's rolling open availability. I will also say that when I was looking to get on the board back in the day, I went and asked every single person how to get on the board, and I found out that they were struggling to find somebody for my area. They had asked around and asked around. The one person they found had been a single mom who couldn't do it because she didn't have childcare for her kiddo. And so when I applied for the appointment, I was the only one. I actually don't know if this last time I was the only one or not, but it was an immediate appointment. So as far as I know, there hasn't been anybody who has stepped up to. We invite the community to come in and step up and to be on this board and to be invited in our community advisory committee. We would love to have you. We would love to have you there. We'd love to have you at our public comment when we have our meetings. We're available for you guys whenever. You can send me an email. I'd love to have coffee. Truly.
Okay, seems, Jackie.
So with the Salem payroll tax, the tax applied to anyone who worked in the city and lived in the city. So is this tax only applicable to cities who are headquartered within the urban growth boundary?
Correct.
It's payroll in the urban growth
It's
boundary, right?
based on your physical address within the Salem and Keizer's
If you do
UGB.
business.
Right.
But you have to make the ordinance decision, so you can't decide.
There would be potential expansion into other communities that couldn't reach new buses. Have you guys done surveys to see if those buses would actually be used versus just sitting empty like along the
Yes.
To be fair, we did get a description of why many, if not most, buses don't have full capacity. It's due, they have 2 sizes to choose from, and you build for your key moments. Joel?
I don't know what the urban growth boundary is. Are you guys serving areas outside the urban growth boundary where basically we're paying for service for communities that aren't subjected to the tax?
No.
So everywhere that you do service, those businesses are subjected to the tax?
Within the urban growth boundary, yes. But for example, like our regional service, that's like from like the stiff money that we get.
Yeah.
No, but that's from like the money that comes in from the state, yeah.
Completed?
Yeah,
From separate from this tax that we're talking about, yes, correct.
Yes.
How do we confirm whether we're in or out of the boundary?
I can assist you with that. If you shoot me your address, I'll get that information quickly to you. Okay, quite a robust discussion. Hey, looks like we cleared part of the room out. Might have had to done with being 25 minutes over schedule. As an organization, we're going to be tracking this issue, and you've heard today from the directors, there are going to be opportunities for you to provide feedback. One thing I would ponder as a community is, had we known this was coming, how many of you would have voted for the Shemetheta bond and the Salem livability levy? Dale Penn, I appreciate that, Dale. This is a concern that we wait in communities purposely to then roll out what is coming next. And we jump from school district is gonna want a bond, city, we just keep doing this. And I think one of the concerns that we all need to be watchful of is understanding when these are coming and counting on our partner organizations to be well ahead of schedule and informing. And so I want to reiterate that's important for all of our governments to be sharing what is coming in the timely process. We will continue to track, and I appreciate the open dialogue by General Manager Pollock as well as the entire board. And I'd ask our organization to please thank these individuals for their time in joining us today. Allan, I do want to give opportunity for any closing remarks if you'd like.
I would just like to say I appreciate everyone's questions, everyone's time. You know, as Tom also mentioned that we are over time, but for all of you that stuck around, took time out of your busy days, I really appreciate it. Again, like this board would not be here without the Chamber's advocacy back in 2018 that made this change, and we've been making sure that we're getting ready as best we can for the last 7 years. I also want to say that we've been working really hard to make sure that this is a service that people can access, and we even have our core network commitment that with our partnership with the City of Salem has allowed folks to be able to build up higher because they now have they don't have the parking minimums, and thus we can create more housing, more livability within the City of Salem, and we want to be able to continue to increase that and support that growth. Thank you very much.
I would just quickly thank everyone again for being here. We heard you, and when the board reconvenes, then they'll have further discussion. And we'll be reporting back, coordinating with Tom on behalf of the business community. Thank you.
Yeah, and General Manager Pollock has been a consistent attendee at all of our functions, and so Allan, really appreciate your leadership from the helm and being engaged with our organization. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would be remiss, a week from today, 7 a.m., we will be back on your governmental affairs docket. It's a great time in the morning, the coffee is hot, the donuts are fresh, and we look forward to continuing conversations on public safety, both in Marion, Polk, and the City of Salem. Thank you all for being here. On behalf of our Board of Directors and Keizer's Board of Directors, have a great afternoon.